Okay, I appear to be actually streaming now. I don't really understand how to do things. Okay, I appear. Where's my phone gone? Hi, so I do actually have people watching. Good. Can you hear me? Am I coming through with any degree of audibility? Good. Okay, I'm going to try and get the chat open on my phone because I haven't got like some fancy setup here. Let's have a look. So I go on my own channel. So the plan is if the letter gets published at midnight my time, which is usually when they do this, then I'm going to translate that, if it's even in Xi'an. If not, it'll just be like a little law talk. And if we're waiting, then I'm going to translate an older Xi'an thing they posted like a couple of years ago, but I don't think anyone's actually got a translation up for it. So it's midnight and it doesn't look like it's up, which is really annoying, but we will see if we can fix that. Cool. Okay, so seeing as we don't seem to have the letter yet, I'm going to have a look at the first article where we actually heard about Torrall, which is the Xi'an manufacturer of guns. So we had our power. We've had our power for ages. We had our power before there was even like a Xi'an language. And then when they actually launched the Xi'an language, they gave us this new manufacturer, Torrall, who make guns, and they make the the K Hicks rocket launcher, which I think was some subscriber flare a while back, and or something like that. And they also make the guns on the Santok. So, but we have this article from Congress Now, which is absolutely hilarious because basically it's one of those situations where someone's saying something and they've got a translator who's not exactly translating what they're saying. So it ends up quite funny. So we'll find that. I'm just going to do another this is my personal F5 battle to see if the law team's posted something, but they have not yet. Okay, so let's go. And so if you're not familiar with Congress Now, it was I say was because they haven't published one in ages. It was a law series which is entirely supposedly non-fiction. But ask, how do I know there's a letter coming? It was on This Week in Star Citizen. I don't know that it's going to be in Xi'an, but last year they published a letter in Banu on the day, so we're just kind of assuming that it might be in Xi'an. And I also know that they've been adding some more vocabulary because Chris Harrow was asking on behalf of sorry, it's late. My mind's going blank. Chris Harrow was asking on behalf of Britton Watkins, who makes the languages, if there's any vocabulary that people thought we should add. And someone made a very good suggestion that we should add this sort of list of standard words that you need for like a basic language, which some of them weren't already in there. And they've now committed to, I think, actually doing that for all the languages. So anyway, let's look at this Congress Now. So the Subcommittee on Planetary Development. Did you think your evening would be this exciting when it started? So this is from 2947, and that was contemporaneous with when it was published. It was like a few days after CitizenCon when they published the language. And we, so why don't you read it? So Senator Thurston Haskell, he's a universalist from Asura in the Farron system. If you're not familiar with the law, that's basically Detroit in space. It's this post-industrial city that's had all of the businesses move out and it's just run down and full of crime. Not to be unkind to Detroit, I'm talking more sort of in broad terms there. So this committee is back in session. For the rest of this hearing, I want to focus on Torrall Aggregate. This Xi'an-owned company recently won a contract to produce weapons for the UAE Army, and they're now looking to purchase a series of decommissioned military facilities in the Kiel system to house their manufacturing operation. Kiel system is near Terra. Joining us now is Marion Keplinger, Senior Legal Counsel for Torrall Aggregate, and Suenath C. So now we get the Xi'an character coming in. So Sunath of the Torrall. Es en Sunath se Torrall, di nyotong eo se kyohito, se ono se Torrall, wehum Salhum. So that is just saying, so they're using the reverential form, so they're being very polite at this point. Verbs in Xi'an have like different politeness levels. Oh, sorry, I'm finally like noticing people. Yes, excellent, the Swadesh list, I believe. So I'm reminding myself that I have to keep up with like both chat and stuff. Yeah, so Godwin, the reference to the letter is further down the page, and it says, so they say, oh, there's going to be something from the document. If you go down, it says it's a letter from the Xi'an Emperor. So it could be quite interesting. So yeah, sorry, back to this. A is then Sunath, my name is Sunath of Torrall. Torrall is the house that makes weapons. Now, T, like I am, then we get into Nyatong O. I think that's like helper. Now you're going to see me use this a lot, which is Chris Harrow's searchable version of the index of words in the back. Let's copy this over, and then we can like annotate underneath. Post match style. Make that smaller. Hopefully that's perfectly legible for you. So I am. So T is one way of saying I am, is saying I am the only. So Nyatong. I just want to be double sure that my translation, yeah, oversight. So it's like I am the overseer of, yeah, here we go, supervisor, manager, director. So I'm the director of, I think that's like division, Kyohito department, the department of Awonisu Torrall, which is the umbrella company of the Torrall, that is Hui Salhum, basically for like the Salhum is the UEE. So I am the director of the department. Let's have a best phrase or something of Torrall Aggregates Department of UE Relations. The sassiness has not started yet. The sassiness will come. Okay, so Thurston Haskell goes, oh, what's that? Marion Kaptinger. Sunath introduced herself as a member of the House Torrall and specifies she holds the title of Director of Human Operations. So she's actually saying Director of the Division of Relations with the UEE. Okay, well, there's limited time and a lot to cover, so I'm going to skip all further formalities. Real quick, though, I noticed the Insta translation services were not provided for Miss Suenath. I assume it's because you prefer you to translate for her. They say Swainath, but it's actually like Sunath. Maybe that's like a dialectal thing. Okay, so Xia is a verb that we don't use that much because it's a little bit severe. I've got a little bit of a cheat sheet tonight because I'm expecting if it's something to do with the emperor that he might use these verbs which aren't used as much, the imperial verbs. But Xia is like deathly need. So I think that what they're actually saying here it's I don't need it. So, and then Ayal Nai is like I'm able to understand you very well. So Xia Kwai Lai. Kwai is just like passive voice, undefined agents, and Lai is like a true negation. So I don't need it. And then Yao Nai, I am able to understand. Po Hian is anything, any idea. Upue, I think pue is just like very well or very clear. We'll just double check that one. Perfect. Yeah. Need it. I am able to understand you perfectly. And I think this is a little bit of a power move to say, you know, oh, I don't need help with translation. I understand you perfectly. I'm going to keep double checking that whether or not we've got our new article up yet. It is still not there. Okay. The director understands us completely, though I may need to take a few moments to clarify any cultural or political differences for her. And seemingly to speak for her too. Technically, I am speaking on behalf of Torrall Aggregate. I would not presume to speak for Director Xi'an personally. If she does speak, I will quickly translate for everyone's convenience. Note that they're actually using a different pronunciation for Marion Keplinger and a different pronunciation for Senator Haskell. So Ms. Swainath, where she's saying Sunath with this little upward inflection. If she speaks, yes, I was responsible for Torrall's bid, and I am more than capable of answering the committee's questions. Very well. How long have you worked for Torrall Aggregate, Miss Keplinger? Just over 2 years. Have you ever bid a government contract before this one? No, Senator. This was my first. And Torrall's inaugural attempt as well, I see. Let me start by complimenting you, Miss Keplinger, on having your first ever bid accepted. Quite a momentous feat. I will pass along your kind words to the entire team, as it would be improper for me to claim sole credit for this honour. An honour it is, but this is the reason we're all here today. Do you have any idea how many companies never receive a single UEE contract? Not the exact number, no. I believe our research shows that less than 20% of companies that bid ever received one. And yet, Torrall Aggregate landed one on their first try. Why do you think that is? Oh, I just lost my position. Why do you think that is? Good question, but probably one best suited for high command. After all, they selected our bid. We'll get to that, but right now I'm more interested in your thoughts on the matter, Miss Keplinger. Well, Senator, from my understanding of the process, the bid usually goes to the company that guarantees the minimum viable product at the most cost-effective pricing. Torrall received the contract, suggests that we best met this criteria. Okay, here's a bit more Xi'an. Tisapo boy pue Marian, we a mia ping uth we soa ye toa we why you wait. Sorry, my Xi'an sight reading is not that good. It's a lot of pitch stuff that I'm just not very good at. So, Tesa is an idiomatic construction of, like, it would be pleasing. It would be pleasing Popo. Popo, I think that's like something to do with ideas. Don't familiar with that term. I often joke that my abilities with Xi'an are basically mostly to do with my abilities to look things up quickly. When will CIG post their stuff at like a normal time? I see. Yeah, it's actually kind of become worse this year. Worse from my perspective. They've become quite consistent at posting things at midnight for me, which is unfortunate. And it would be lovely if it was like if they posted it at start of the day for them. Works out better for EU time. So yeah, something like it would be pleasing if you exerted yourself less, Marion, I think. Popo P means like less exertion. Wea mia u ping. Not sure what wea is. Okay, so there's like a missing verb here. So Xi'an does a lot of like dropping bits of speech, which can be really confusing. Not as confusing as Banu, where you don't just drop things, you mash them together and make a new word. I still have no idea how to do that. So there's kind of like almost like a silent O here. Actually, that could be that that Sunath is speaking to Marion in a more friendly way. So in familiar Xi'an, in the familiar tone, where between friends, you can just like not say "oh," the verb "oh." You just don't say it at all, and that's just like a way of being chummy with mates. Maybe that's their kind of relationship. So, so Weama is a command to describe less, and also so I no idea on that one. Plan of yours. I think it's plan of yours. Oh, regarding such a useful tool. This I would be so much slower without it. This is actually just, you can see Toa. That's actually a change in how things got spelled. Yeah, so it's like describe. Oh no, it's like not describe less. Describe it a little about the manufacture, about your manufacturing. Describe a little about your manufacturing plan. Okay. The sassiness comes a bit later, and let's do another check to see if the letter's dropped. It hasn't. Well, the director has reminded me that Torrall also guaranteed that all weapons would be made right here in the UEE with resources gathered in the Empire, following all manufacturing laws and regulations. At the end of the day, it will be a Xi'an operation in name only. And money. A whole lot of it, actually, will end up leaving the Empire because of this deal. Did any outside individuals or entities provide help with Torrall's bid? Could you clarify the question, Senator? Did Torrall Aggregate receive help from the Xi'an government when preparing their bid? It's kind of an ignorant question. I'll get to that. So Marion replies, Torrall had to seek approval from Emperor Cray before placing this bid, but that is perfectly normal for a Xi'an corporation. All important issues like this are brought before the government, much the same as we are doing here. So I'll take that as a yes. And how long has Torrall been preparing for this bid? I don't know precisely. I was brought on the project after it was already up and running. Care to make an educated guess? I believe it was around late 2915. So going well back before Husha, that's the Human Xi'an trade agreement, was even in place. 3 decades working a single deal that wouldn't have even been legal at the time. That's awfully foresighted of Torrall, wouldn't you say? So now, Senator Jana Thurville drops in. She's the transitionalist for Severus in the Kiel system, which, if you remember from earlier, that's where they're planning to build the factory. So obviously she's got a vested interest there. Severus is where IAE started, I think, and is the it's a sort of like post-military planet that's kind of reinventing itself as a sort of high-tech place. And yeah, and she's also a transitionalist, so they're a little bit more pro-alien than like of the 3 main parties, transitionalists are the most pro-alien. The universalists are kind of in the middle, and the centralists, I wouldn't call them anti-alien. They're just like kind of amoral. They've one of the centralists tried to remove voting rights from the only alien member of the Senate, basically just as a sort of stunt. And they're quite happily doing like race baiting, but it's not because I don't think it's because they hate aliens. They just love power, and they view riling up race hate as a means for power. Fortunately, those things don't work in the real world. Excuse me, Chairman Haskell, but I'm a bit confused by this line of questioning. When you invited representatives from Torrall Aggregate to join today's session, I was led to believe the focus would be on their proposal to purchase decommissioned military facilities on Severus, not to interrogate them about their army contract. Well, Senator Thurville, this is all news to me since Husha made it legal for Xi'an companies to receive government contracts. We can't tell the military how to spend our credits, but our approval is still needed to sell these facilities. So you best bet I have a few questions for a company linked with a foreign government before I endorse the sale. Now, Mr. Keplinger, all contractors work working on projects for the UE military must obtain special clearance first. Correct. Care to share with me who in a Xi'an company is qualified to have such clearance? I'd be happy to name a few of the people who. We'd prefer if you provide us a full list. My apologies, Senator, but I don't have one in front of me. So this guy's getting really aggressive at this point. Well, I, for one, am not willing to put up this land sale for a vote until this committee has reviewed said list and is confident that Torrall Aggregate have the personnel in place to properly administer this contract. Here we go. Here's where it gets a little bit more aggressive from the Xi'an. Don't want to put in the header. There we go. So, I think this is where they actually start using maybe some pejorative pronouns. What's Toa? Oh no, oh yeah, Toath. I always wonder if this is a reference to toast because it kind of sounds like the word toast. Who is the lawyer? Oh no, we got Xenothreat people in the chat. So that's like so she's actually being negotiating position. Kia like means it's going to be metaphorical. So don't know what eso is. There's so many words which I would just never use in anything that I do for translation because oh yeah, so it is metaphorically clear. Okay, so I'm sleepy and I'm unused to live viewers. There's so many things which I would never come across in usual translation because I usually just translate like people's names and kind of everyday ideas. So something more complex like this, it has a lot of vocabulary that I just don't use. So ekia eso, that means it is metaphorically clear. So not saying it is literally a transparent object. It means like it is clear flow. I'm sure there's something pejorative in here somewhere where it's okay, so it's clear that the reason is that basically Bering is paying this guy off. Eti pa is like T is like using like a tool and pa is in the past, and pairing is just the name Bering. Sometimes you have to go through like a bit further into the sentence to work out what the start of the sentence would be in English. Yeah, kwao is like cash. Kwao e kwang is like a lot of money, a lot of moolah, in like a sort of colloquial way. Nwang. Let's just go through these. In order to, yeah, it is clear. The reason is Bering has used a lot of money in order to I don't know half these words. I mean, if it's cheek, oh yeah, to cause. So again, using these familiar verbs, which that's why I don't come across them that much, because the familiar verbs are for chats between friends, and there aren't that many examples of that. Yeah, so in order to change his preference towards them. Nui Thlan, that's like towards them, to the benefit of them. So, so to make this clear, I've added in behind this, even though that's not in the Xi'an, because it just makes it clearer. So they're just saying like, oh, it's a great negotiating position, but it's basically clear that Bering is paying this guy off. And then Marion Keplinger comes back. I hope this is at least somewhat enlightening, even if it isn't exciting. I just keep an eye on chat as well. I'm so used to just solipsism. And we'll check to see if the letter's dropped. No. This typographic mark in the middle, I don't like. They did this early on in Xi'an, and I don't think they do it anymore. It was when they wanted to show an explicit syllable break, but I think they realized it was a little bit ugly, so they kind of stopped doing it in anything. Because sometimes it can be a little ambiguous where syllables break, but we kind of found that we don't really need it once you understand vocabulary. Like, you can understand that and oa will come together as a word rather than noa, just from like knowing what the different syllables are. Yai is a pronoun. I'm terrible with pronouns just in general. Unoa, there'd be something to do with information. Not university. This does struggle with two-letter words, and there are lots of two-letter words, so I should probably get the main document up. This can be easier when it's two-letter words to just look up in the dictionary. Oh yeah, and regarding the data set, something like that, where na is a question word. It's for yes/no questions. Not where, that's salad. I made some where. That distant data set. I'm not sure what that could be a metaphorical. Because so you get this thing called the proximity matrix, which is about like whether things are close or far away, and it gets used for physical closeness of time, like recent past, distant past, and also closeness of ideas, where it's like, is it a straightforward idea or like a way out there idea? Oh, sorry, I've been missing your questions. Zyka, the Banu do have pronouns, they just don't have gendered pronouns because they don't have gender. They still have, like, I can't remember what it is, but they have a single pronoun for addressing someone, say you, or what we would say for he or she or they, the singular they, but there is no distinction for them, so they just use that. Xi'an actually also do that, and in their like familiar, in their normal polite, the pronoun where we would say he or she, they have one pronoun for both sexes or both genders, and then in reverential they have separate ones, which also they have a weird thing where they have separate plural for. They don't really have I don't know what the situation is if you want to refer to a plural you and it was mixed gender, because there's only a specific masculine and feminine one. I'm looking forward to Tavaran language too. I think it's going to... there's actually a little hint of it in the Banu language guide. Yeah, okay. Regarding that distant data, I think this is kind of like a bit idiomatic. It's kind of like... And where are you getting that kind of thing? Like, they love doing these idiomatic things where it's like it's kind of a turn of phrase. It breathes life into the language, I guess. We already saw that. That was this thing about like explain. It's weird here, so we're switching from familial to reverential quite quickly. So I have to keep my phone going. Okay, so we've got like explain. I need to look up the vocab for all this. Let's check to see if the letters dropped. You're getting the gist of this, right? Where it's basically this guy's stonewalling them, and now they're having a little bit of a sidebar about this guy's taking money, he's getting all these bribes, and this whole thing doesn't really make that much sense because, of course, there would be other translators in the room. But it's quite funny. I'm having trouble with this one. It's a little bit of a complex construction because so there'd be like there's kind of like a silent here, o here, so because it's familiar, we're removing it. The o being the verb for do. So Weamia is like explain, and I'm making this command, but then it goes into u, which is about. So that is it says do the verb in this way, and then what it actually says is o chi tong yui tang wei nyoang, which has all the nyoang, which is all these kind of really reverential terms. So nyoang is the reverential pronoun for we excluding you, and so I think what they're saying is like kind of just like explain that we politely request something. I'm having to set in response to your request. Yeah. Politely direction regarding your request. Not sure about this one. This doesn't really hang together so much anymore. It's a little bit of a loose translation. I'm confident with this. I'm confident with this idea that it's like about paying them off. I'm less confident with this because it's a little bit sort of idiomatic and sort of slangy. There's like no verb in here, right? It's and where are you getting that idea? It wouldn't really hang with the use of na, because na is exclusively for yes/no questions. It might be like, and do you want me to ask about the data set, or or do you want me to ask him if he's being bribed? But then I think that it turns around to them saying, to Sunath saying, explain that we politely request direction regarding your request. So it's like, say this. Okay, and this is where it kind of gets a bit funnier. So, you mind enlightening us to your discussion, or should I just ask for the translator? I was asking the director about the next step in the process, and what did she say? Torrall Aggregate is ready and willing to comply with the committee's request in the hopes of establishing a functional and fruitful working relationship. In other words, she didn't just accuse you of getting bribed. We're just being completely professional. Providing that lets be a good first step, Miss Keplinger. Looks like my time is up. Would anyone else answer our questions? To question our guests from Torrall Aggregate. Quite a few, I see. Let's take a brief recess and assign a lot of time so we stay on schedule. Miss Keplinger and Monsieur, can you give us 5? Soyez quoi na? This is saying, does he want 5 days? No, 5 minutes. This is just shows the difference in Xi'an perception of time. Like she immediately thinks that it's going to be a 5-day recess rather than a 5-minute recess. Or it might be 5 hours. I'm pretty sure that's days. Yeah, 5 days. And here comes another kind of more interesting idiom. Eyo ting tang ria noa, eyo poe kawa evra ka. This is a hard one to say. Kao wa raipuang. Raipuang. Sorry, I'm getting the tonalities wrong. I don't speak tonal languages. Eyo. So this is saying I lack. I think this might be like I lack patience. Oh yeah, yeah. It doesn't make any difference to me. No difference to me. So it doesn't make any difference to me if you want to wait 5 days or 5 minutes. Eya poe. Eya poe contract. So this is idiomatic because Raipuang is the Xi'an holy world that has a single day lasts 128 years, or human years. It lasts 100 Xi'an years, and that's why they kind of consider it like magical. It's like if we found it's kind of like if we found a planet that was that exactly rotated every 100 years for us, and we'd find that sort of special. we're not as obsessed with time with them. It's like if we found a star that was like playing Ricky Martin's Living La Vida Loca in its pulses. We'd think that was pretty special. That's a cultural touchstone for you. So this is a bit of an idiomatic one. E yo poe kaua raipuang. I'm trying to work out what they mean. Okay, so raipuang appears in these idioms about time, where it's like saying a year on raipuang. So a year on raipuang would mean hundreds of revolutions of these 100-year things. So it'd be like an unfathomable amount of time. It's like a second of eternity, the idea of a bird wearing down a mountain. That appears in those idioms. But I don't understand this grammatical construction. I think it might be like... It's very idiomatic. It's kind of like saying it's nothing compared to like Raipuang, or it's not like he's asking me to wait on Raipuang or something. Absolutely appreciate it, Bang. So that's a bit of Xi'an translation. I don't think anyone outside of a few people had actually really ever looked at live or and shared around. What was going on here was discussing this contract that Torrall Aggregate got, and basically the senator was trying to block them, and they were kind of being a bit sassy and being like, oh, he's getting paid off, and then they were sort of not being quite honest with what they were actually saying to each other. I'd rather have it play something else, but I will. Okay, still no letter. I'm guessing maybe it'll be 1 a.m. then when it comes out, which is like, I think that's 5 p.m. for Pacific. If anyone's got any questions or requests about language, I could just like translate names or something. I could like draw names out for people. If it doesn't come out at 1, I'm probably gonna have to go to bed because I've got work tomorrow. There's 9 people watching. I'm very grateful that you're sticking with me through this silliness, where I'm just translating something that's like several years old. Banu does look cool. I'm terrible at Banu. It has 7 different types of verb, and you have to remember what type of verb each verb is. There are some hints for some things, like verbs about liking and hating things will always be a certain type, but it's a lot to remember compared to Xi'an, which another thing I like about Xi'an is that you can kind of construct a word for any idea. Like if I wanted to construct a word for a mug that is specifically for tea, I could do that. Whereas in Banu, words have very fixed meanings and they don't really compound much, so you can't have the flexibility to fill in the gaps in the language in the same way. And a lot of the time when you're doing something with Xi'an, you have to think up some way to say, we don't have the word biology. So when I was actually talking to Brian Watkins, he goes, what do you do for work? And I wanted to say I'm a biologist, and I had to say I am a student of life, or a student of living things, of animals. And that was the best way I could express what I do for a living. And it's just harder to do that when you don't have the words to say it. Another thing I'm keeping an eye on is I expect we'll get something added into this page, which is where they announce new words, because I expect with any new words, any new publication, they're probably going to throw in a few new words. I'm going to upvote some posts. Just keep an eye on people. Oh yeah, so Steffi, you're completely right. The way you kind of deal with the gaps in the language in Banu is you kind of just say the English word, or whatever language you want really. You could say the German word with a transliteration. So you're going to mash the word from your language into the syllables of Banu. So we actually don't have the Banu name for the merchantman at the moment. and the only place it appears in the language guide is as omachamando, omachandamando, or if you're being a better Banu speaker, you'd be like omachandmando. We do have the name for the defender, which is Oktai. So yeah, you can fill in the gaps by like, if I want to say paper and they don't have the word for paper, I would say like or paper, to say like it is a verb. To give it the prefix of like o, meaning like a normal everyday object, and paper does fit their syllables. I find that a little less satisfying to play with though than constructing words. It's a little less fun to play with, and this is ultimately all about fun. Like, I'm not doing this to impress anyone. I just like it. My own personal F5 war against the page. Oh well. I was practicing earlier because I don't do a great deal of translation. I was practicing a little bit with this letter, which I've read 100 times, but this is the original bit of writing we had to look at. I'm kind of expecting something like this, and this is a letter from Professor Master Tai. And I was quite happy to find that I could actually read a lot of this, like She, Swe, Len, Sath, Sen, Nya, Pu, Hui, Sao. The reason I was happy is because most of my experience with actually working with Xi'an letters is from translating names of people, human people who I've met. And as a result, there's a lot of syllables that I've really rarely come across. There's plenty of people called like Ben in the Star Citizen community. There are so many people called like Glal, which, so those syllables just don't turn up as much. Or some other interesting things. I'm hoping this letter might. I was kind of tongue in cheek about this, but I've been trying to like predict what this letter from the Xi'an Emperor might be. And there's kind of two areas that I think they might touch upon. I think it's supposed to be historical, right? So it's not going to be something recent. And I think that would mean it probably wouldn't be about Husha, because Husha was like 2017. So it's only like 4 years ago. I don't think that's really historical archives stuff. It might be from the start of Husha, because I think it took quite a few years to agree, as any trade deal does. So I'm expecting it probably more likely to be either something about the end of the Cold War, so that would be the current Emperor Krei, or just the slow warming of relations between the two empires. There's a really interesting story which I related in my recent ships video about the Eagle's Talon, the UES Eagle's Talon, which I think is an important story for understanding the growing trust between the Xi'an and the humans, where basically a human crew saved some Xi'an pilots who had crashed. Basically, they were escorting something and it blew up, and they were able to save a Xi'an pilot, and they focused on saving the pilots over saving and studying the craft, and a few humans died in the process as well. And that was like a big deal in repairing the trust between the two nations, even after the war had ended, the Cold War. But I think another really interesting area that they could take it is looking at correspondence between the two empires at the very start of the Cold War. So that would actually be with Ivar Messer the First. When I say Ivar Messer, there was only one Ivar Messer, but he was Messer the First, and the predecessor to the current emperor. And I think that'd be really interesting because the law around the start of the Cold War is it kind of makes it clear now that Messer started it. So there were these bombings, and he said that was the Xi'an, we got to go to war with these people. But it's now known that he perpetrated them. He got people that he trusted to set these bombs, and then he had them assassinated, I think, those people. And that he used this to create a boogeyman that was then used to suppress the UE, well, to create the UEE and suppress the people within it. You've got to obey us because otherwise the Xi'an will come and kill us all. And that was, I think, necessary in his view because we defeated the Tavarin. So he needed a threat, and the Xi'an were a convenient threat. Barney weren't a threat, but the Xi'an could be. So, and yeah, obviously we didn't get off on a great foot, but I think it was very much precipitated more by Ivor Messer. And, I mean, that's my personal theory, and I wonder if maybe we'll get a confirmation of that through this letter. Who knows? So my phone keeps going off, which means I can't see the chat. Messer with his 100 IQ plays. I think that's, that's kind of his thing. Messer, he's kind of your classic, he's a Julius Caesar figure, right? So nobody's saying that Messer is, like, stupid. He was pretty smart at what he did. And it was the problem that all of his descendants were kind of crap. I mean, I don't know what to tell you guys. There's nothing to see here. What are you going to do? I don't even think have I got my font installed in this? I designed my own font for Xi'an, which you can install and use just like the official fonts that you can get in the fan kit. So if you don't know, you can install these fonts. I don't have my own font installed at the moment because I had to wipe everything. So if I just type like this, you see that's just some random letters at the moment. But if I go into fonts and change this to all, we then get Xi'an. Except that's wrong. Wait. Let's find whether 1, 2, 3. There we go. Had to put a non-breaking space in. Xi'an. And you can write in Xi'an. And this was made by... So the original art was obviously designed by Britton Watkins, but it was Chris Harrow who made these usable. And you can use that with... that's also why he was able to do the Barney stuff. And I made my own typeface for this and my own font, which looks more blocky. It was kind of intended as a sort of stencily industrial font, and I just really need to release it. I've got like permission from CIG to release it. I just haven't ever. I wanted to make a video about it, and I'm really lazy at making videos. I was interested in making a video about the development of Chinese typography and the differences in compared to European typography, because a lot of the shapes of characters in Chinese are actually influenced by the printing technique, where they were carved into wood. Is it monospaced? It's kind of monospaced. Like these parts are monospaced, but then these parts aren't, which would be the pitch markings. And also you'll sometimes get characters like this. This is a valid character because this is the conjunction A, not the verb A, but the conjunction A. So that's a half-space character. Also, natively, Xi'an is written in columns. And this is the more sort of like modern way. Oh yeah, so as I was saying, so you get these kind of thickness differences in the horizontal and the verticals on Chinese characters, which is because they were carved into wood. And in the wood grain, you can achieve much thinner lines in one direction than other, and that fundamentally influenced how you produced printed Chinese books, and also printed stuff in then other countries that adopted their writing system, which includes Japan and Korea for at least a time, and then they obviously went and made their own changes. And it was the reason is because you can't use movable metal type like we do in Europe. They actually invented that first. The reason you can't do it is because you've got so many thousands of different characters. It would be completely unfeasible to keep that number of characters around. You mean if you've ever seen like a traditional print shop, they've got all these cases, and that's for a 26-letter alphabet and a bit of punctuation. Yeah, Yeah, I see what you mean. Like it's like font encoding is difficult. It's really difficult. I like if I'm doing some kind of graphic design. So I'm responding to Joshua saying like it drifts a little bit. Yeah, if you're doing something really graphical, it's best to like manually do all the spacing, but that's a huge pain if you've got something this big. And I've never written anything that big, really. Yeah, as I was saying, you get these. So for a long time, China and Japan and Korea, actually not Korea. That's where it gets interesting. China and Japan were just carving. If you wanted to print a book, you'd carve each individual page in wood, and then that would be your printing. And it wasn't until like much later you had anything different to that, and that influenced their typography to have these very varying stroke heights. And then very quickly, when the printing press was brought to Europe, we changed to movable metal type because it works well for our script, and it works well for Korean script because Korea I can't remember when, but a few hundred years ago changed to an alphabet. Their writing is an alphabet. And movable metal type worked there, so they changed to movable metal type. But you don't see this variation in stroke widths in Xi'an because, well, they're an alphabet, so it doesn't have that same influence. So, but yeah, there's an interesting thing where we do have two official typefaces for Xi'an, and they kind of do map to different typefaces that we see in Chinese and Japanese typography, and I wanted to make something that was like much less readable in some ways because I like, typography is a language. It is a design language that can be as important in color as important as color in conveying a feeling to somebody, and both the typefaces we have are quite friendly and readable and kind of human or humanist, I suppose you could say, and that does have a specific meaning in typography. And I kind of wanted to make something that was a bit more alien, like a bit less friendly, and allowing you to paint with a color that is more explicitly in your face, as you're not welcome here. Is this still working? Great. Have they graced us with the letter yet? No, they have not. Well, yeah, I'm going to stay on for another 20 minutes maybe, see if they do it. I was thinking of making a video about these guys because actually I did kind of record it and then it didn't work out as a short. I've been kind of getting into shorts lately because some people were looking at this and going, it kind of looks like alien armor. And if you look into the lore behind these guys, it kind of is and kind of isn't. But it mostly isn't, but kind of a little bit could be. The reason is, so Tehachapi was actually the name of the original guy who designed these, but he's disappeared in the story. I can't remember the name of these guys, but there was a guy who was a smuggler, and he wanted some armor, and he was in Olympus, which is a pirate city built into a crashed battle carrier. And so he was there in Olympus, and he met this guy called Tehachapi who was selling armor off a stall. He bought it, and he went away, and he really liked it. It worked so well. It was just great armor. So next time he's back in Olympus, he goes and tries to find Tehachapi, and the guy's nowhere to be found. So apparently he's had a bit of a run-in with Nescus, who's the Tavarin warlord who kind of lords over this crashed battle carrier that's a city. And when I say it's a pirate city, this is in the Null sector, which is full of slavers and just the most horrible people. It's like worse than pirates, just a nasty, nasty place. So he can't find this guy, and he decides to quit his current crew and go and find him because he's like, this stuff's great. I've got some money. I want to like go into business with this guy. So he goes from place to place trying to find Tehachapi, and he doesn't. He can't find Tehachapi. Instead, he finds another armorer who's able to make the same stuff, essentially like take his designs and reproduce them. And that was I think it might have been in the city of Largo on Nexus. In the planet of Largo on Nexus, which is probably in the city of Rice. yeah, that's another pirate place. That's actually a pirate system that is an officially claimed UE system, but is pretty overrun with pirates. They've been trying to work it back. But yeah, he finds this other guy. They go into business together, making Tehachapi's designs. Now, Tehachapi is it's a Native American word. It's a Kawaiisu word. There are people in California, and there's a Tehachapi town and valley. It's believed to mean hard climb. So we'd assume that Tehachapi is probably human. He's kind of like this mystical shaman character who just disappears into the mist when you don't look at him, I suppose. And so he's human. The guy who bought the armor is human, and the guy who then made the armor is also human. So these aren't alien armors. But Tehachapi was working in Olympus, and this other guy was working in Nexus, and both of those places are absolutely chock full of like Tavaran, both legal and illegal people. And so, yeah, there could be a great deal of influence from Tavaran customers. It could have been like, you could view these as sort of human armors that maybe took some influence from Tavaran armors, or like we're trying to reach out to a Tavaran audience. I think they're really cool. I really like just the look of them. And apparently they were some of Jared Huckabee's last projects in the role of, like he no longer works on the subscriber flare, but this was one of his last projects, he was saying on Twitter. So that's kind of cute. So I've got to keep an eye on this chat because otherwise I lose it. Still nothing. I'm sorry, guys. They usually schedule these things to go out on the hour, and I believe I'm right in saying that what is LA time right now? It will be the LA office because they are the Lord team. Yeah, it's coming on 5 o'clock in LA time, so that's kind of the last on the hour moment that they could possibly release it. They're not likely to, think about it. You're not likely, if you're going to publish an article, do it at the moment before you leave the office in case there's any problem with it. So I'm kind of expecting it's either going to be, in 4 minutes, or it's just not going to come. It's not been uncommon for them to sometimes schedule things at really inconvenient hours. Like when you kind of think, I don't think you were in the office then. I think sorry, the example I'm thinking of is the election results, when they said they were going to be out on one day and they came out at something like 6 a.m. the next day for me. And it's like, that would have been like scheduled for 9 p.m. that night. And I guess they were kind of simulating, the election results coming in the evening, but it did kind of annoying if you're trying to wait for something to be published and they say it's going to be published on this day. It's like very much the next day by that point. I love everything they do. I just kind of wish the schedule was easier to follow if you don't live in America. I'm really looking forward to Alien Week. I'm really hoping they maybe think, we're clearly having a more Xi'an focused Alien Week. We're starting with a Xi'an letter, and we're probably getting the Xi'an cargo ship, which, baseless prediction, I think it's going to be called the Quorai, which is the advanced tool for carrying things. That's just my completely baseless prediction. If they're naming it from existing words, they could make up a completely new word for it. Now, Alien Week was originally set up around human Xi'an first contact, so that obviously causes if it's Xi'an focused, why would it be around then? They've never actually done Xi'an New Year. Xi'an New Year would be every 1.28 Earth years, and we don't actually have any date. It's like Nox. Yeah, Nox doesn't work as a Xi'an word. Really annoys me. If the list doesn't come out in 5 minutes, we'll be making a video about it. So yeah, if it doesn't come out in 5 minutes, I'll probably do this again tomorrow. I've kind of got a busy day tomorrow, but I'll do my best. I am kind of expecting it to come out in like 2 minutes, but I don't know. I can't make that promise. Oh, we shall see. Yeah, I'm wondering if they do Xi'an New Year and like fix the calendar to a certain date. We don't have any reason to think that the Xi'an do like count things on days of the year. Well, they probably do it to some degree, but like it doesn't seem to be that important for their historical events. It'd be like recording. We care that D-Day. We care that the end of World War One. I know that's a really bad example. We do know the time now. We care that certain events happen on certain days. We don't necessarily care what hour they happened in. We don't observe the hour that things happened or record it as an important event all the time. So I think it's like that for historical events. It doesn't really matter when in the year it happened. It just we know it happened that year. That's precise enough from their perspective. But yeah, we don't have a exact one-to-one of like when a Xi'an date is versus a human date down to the day, and also the Xi'an dates don't add up to themselves anyway. There's like at least 3 different scales that dates are on. I've enjoyed this live translation where I translated like 5 lines of something that was published 4 years ago. Well, I guess it kind of was esoteric stuff. I'm glad you enjoyed that. Since I've stayed up late, I don't think I'll be getting up too early. Oh, come on, it's now 1 a.m. You gotta give me this. You gotta give it to me. Torrall Nova. Fuck. Posting stuff about the Torrall Nova. Where's my letter from the Xi'an Emperor? Oh, damn. What are we getting here? Adverts to the Torrall Nova. Okay. Feels a little like out of sync, It feels a little strange to see these pages coming up when that was like it's like a week ago we had that. I'm confused. I'm very confused. The Torrall Nova's been around for ages. Oh, yeah, I'm perfectly happy to see it. It's now in game. Come on, let's refresh again. It has arrived. It is here. It is not in Xi'an. It's in English. It's in English. And it's from Jump Point. So we've actually already had it. Okay. Well, I said I'd go through a reaction to it, so let's have a look at what it actually says. See if there's anything I can tell you about it, which will be a bit more interesting than yeah, save me some trouble. Okay. Oh yeah, so this is the letter that like he wrote. I remember this now. Yeah, it's the letter that he wrote to say, open this if I don't come back from this meeting with this human. It's just Terence Akari, who's the senator from Terra, who just like went rogue and went and declared negotiated peace with the Xi'an Empire. Yeah. So, per my directive to the honourable and wise members of my house, the dissemination of this letter means but one thing: the end of my reign and the descendancy of House Cray. Bit of a strange turn of phrase. Yeah, he's the last member of the. He's not the last member of the house, I guess, but he's the last He's the last of the imperial line. So yeah, this decree will mark the end of the Third Imperial Age. So he has no descendants. When the current emperor dies, there will be. I say a succession crisis. There's been 2 successions in Xi'an history because they had the initial emperor. So they had a civil war, and they said, "Let's never have a civil war again. Let's change to an empire where there's going to be one powerful person that keeps everyone else in check." So they then elected their first emperor, and when that house ended. And it did end peacefully. They just sort of fizzled out like this house is doing as well. They then elected a new house to be emperor. Then that one all got killed in by the Krithak, and then House Cray. Well, then there was like a period of interregnum called the Dark, where nobody really knew what was there wasn't any kind of clear person to lead, and then it was House Cray who kind of brought everyone back together, and that started the Third Imperial Age. So it's entirely possible that there will be a peaceful transition. So yeah, House Cray will provide the necessary details of my final moments when intelligence services deem it appropriate, but I believe the particulars matter less than the decisions our Emperor will be forced to consider in the wake of my passing, i.e. who's going to be the new Emperor, and are we going to go to war with the humans? Proper war. They already would be at war. Recently, I embarked on a covert mission to human space to finalise a treaty with a leader of their kind who, unlike the human ruler, appears to be wise, reasonable, and a champion of peace. I think that's a nice dig at the messes. For years, the individual and I have corresponded about what peace between our two species might actually mean and how it would manifest in the real world and affect the everyday lives of both sides. At this point, you got this whole strip called the Periline of systems which both groups are just not touching. So you obviously have a question about how do you divide that up, but also it's just like, this isn't a great situation that they're in. As we watered the seed of trust, I came not only to believe that the future could exist, but it was my duty to do everything in my power to ensure that it did exist. That's why I deemed it worthy to put my life on the line to venture into human space in the pursuit of peace. Peace is an enormously important concept to the Xi'an. Like there's two kind of peace. There's inner peace and there's like external peace, and their capital is called the Place of Peace. The religion they follow is called the Path of Peace, and that it's kind of like an internal peace that will manifest external peace, I suppose. They're actually quite war averse. They're kind of like strong, but they don't. All of their strength is about preventing war more than anything. It's like saying, don't attack us because we're very strong, but we're not gonna. They're not warmongers. Though my journey may have ended there, away from the home of my mothers, I wish to... they're matrilineal, by the way, if you didn't know. I wish to advise my fellow Xi'an to not abandon this path of peace. That's like the literal translation of Lituva. Whatever fate befell me, as innocent or as treacherous as it may be, it is not worthy of war with a species we have only begun to benefit from. My time with the humans has led me to believe that we can find a use for them that is favourable to the future of our empire. They're also in it for themselves, let's say it. Consider a growth of thorns. Left unchecked, it may overtake the garden. Attempt to remove it, and the risk to yourself is great. Attempt to destroy it, and the beauty that surrounds it may be destroyed as well. However, if you tame the growth to become part of the garden, its danger can be put to new use. The Xi'an really like gardens, and their holy world of Raipuang, all of it, every single inch of it is temples or gardens. They don't really like wilderness. They like manicured spaces. Humans discovered Xi'an Thusung the year I was born. That's the Thusung system, where the human Xi'an first contact happened. I forget what the human name is for it. I grew up watching my house handle diplomacy with this interesting and animated new species. As a child, I attended enough formal dinners with human emissaries to know what food of theirs I enjoyed. As an heir, I practiced their language and studied their ways. I learned their history and experienced their art. I even found their music to be quite meditative. What can we get from there? It's interesting there's a lot of human emissaries because the Cold War started pretty quickly. It kind of implies that there was more hostility kind of talked about in the UEE than there was actually in the back channels. And in terms of the music being quite meditative, Xi'an music can be so slow that you actually have to meditate to perceive it as music. They kind of slow down the metabolisms, which speeds up their perception of time in some sense. So you get these drone fugue kind of states. It can last for days. And so the fact that he finds our music quite meditative is kind of interesting. Compared to us, humans are a young species, one who only recently discovered that the universe is not theirs alone. They had space flight 27,000 years ago. It's quite a long time. So 27,000 BC, so even longer, almost 30,000 years ago. That when I say spaceflight, I'm talking about like Yuri Gagarin in a little box kind of spaceflight. They were fighting in interplanetary war 20,000 years ago. So they're ahead of us in history. Still, they developed spacefaring technologies of impressive sophistication and spread their diverse culture across dozens of systems in less time than our first Imperial Age. The first Imperial Age was like 14,000 years or something. It was incredibly long. Might be longer. I can't remember off the top of my head. My experience with them taught me that humans overflow with emotion, ambition, and can find a use. It sounds like a tool in your old shed. Yeah, I see what you mean. Like, I'm sorry. I'm coming back on something that Aiden said in chat like 2 minutes ago about can find a use. Sounds like a tool. Yeah. House Cray. So all Xi'an houses have like a singular purpose that is given to them by the Emperor. House Cray was a house of spies and intelligence and subterfuge. So they are like canny operators. They may act irrationally, but they are not illogical. Their potential as a species is both great and terrible. Since first contact, House Cray has maintained distance but remained engaged. Diplomacy was difficult but preferable to armed conflict. It seemed perilous to underestimate the military capability or willingness to use it. Humans had already won 2 wars against the Tavaran, and there appeared to be much to learn from them and much to risk in provoking them. You know, when you live for several hundred years and you only have a few children, you know, a singular life can be quite valuable. And I think they do value lives very highly. Pardon me. Sorry, I've got a bit of a bilious. The strategy of distance diplomacy has also allowed time for House Cray to produce an heir. Also allowed time for House Cray to produce an heir that could continue their dynasty. As I ascended as Emperor and the possibility of such a successor diminished, I meditated on the impending end of House Cray's imperial dynasty. Above all, I did not want the Third Imperial Age to end while the Empire warred with a dangerous and unpredictable new enemy. So speaking about that search for new heir, it says earlier that House Cray still exists, so why would he be leaving? It doesn't necessarily have to be that it's one of his direct offspring. I guess it maybe is. But yeah, there was this early idea in the lore that the Xi'an Emperor was picked genetically, and it was all to do with whether you had like a certain number of imperial markers in your genome. I don't know if they've continued with that because it's a little bit of a strange concept. It's kind of based on I think it's kind of based on like the Dalai Lama, how they pick the Dalai Lama. They kind of like find a child who's got the right, that they've determined is a reincarnation. But it's like they base it on science. Genes are very important to the Xi'an. Above all, I did not want the Third Imperial Age to end while the Empire warred with a dangerous and unpredictable new enemy, particularly since history has taught us that the search for the next Imperial line can be long and complicated. That long and complicated bit is the 200 years of like dark ages that they just suffered through, interregnum at least. There was a lot of like inter-house war. It wasn't very good. For these reasons and others, I focused on finding common ground, fostering peace, and creating a universe where we Xi'an can prosper from our proximity to humans. Though I may not have succeeded, I still believe peace to be our best option and pray my actions have not doomed it. To those houses who would proclaim that our safety lay in subjugating the humans, I'd remind you that the scars inflicted by battle are slow to heal. They have a permanent reminder of that because their homeworld is completely destroyed by war. They basically had to move to their version of Mars to survive. They'd already colonized it, and they had to they lost their home planet and all the people on it, and only those left on Kawa and other planets in their home system were left. So they have this permanent reminder of this dead planet, which is their homeworld, to remind them that war is not always the best option. Victory too often comes with a price too great. Let us not completely abandon the lessons we've hard earned from the Spirit Wars. That's the wars with the Kuthak. My death brings an official end to the Third Imperial Age. With no legitimate heir to the throne, House Cray's last act will be to administer the ascension of a new house that will lead our people. So they have this aim to not have another interregnum. I hope this sacred endeavour will be swift, smooth, and provide the Emperor with a strong and steady leader to navigate the challenges ahead. As my last act, I wish to share with the entire Empire the same advice I would the next Emperor. Trust Litava, the path of peace. to provide guidance and solace, be benevolent in action, diplomatic when faced with opposition, and wise when encountering the unknown. Finally, remember that taking no action can often be the best action. It has been an immeasurable honour for me to have served the Xi'an Empire as your emperor. Long may the Xi'an Empire reign. Emperor Tueng Krai. Sorry, let me get my pronunciation right. Tueng Krai. Nice and low. Beneficent and righteous caretaker of the Xi'an people and protector of all our worlds. Translation courtesy of Ariel Alfonso. I wonder if it's related to the Banu translator, who's the Xi'an archivist from 2887 to 2913. Alfonso. I'm sure that there's someone else called Alfonso in the lore. Was Reggie? I'm sorry, I'm just thinking. Was one of the characters from this Albion Lacroix, Regina Hall? No, I'm getting confused. Yeah. Okay. Well, I guess I better end the stream because that's all we actually have. It's an old letter from Jump Point, and I should have remembered that this letter existed. I believed that because Alien Week was coming up, that it would be something that would like kickstart Alien Week. I was kind of right about it being something from the end of the Cold War. Well, I kind of covered all my bases, right? But yeah, it's something from the end of the Cold War, and it is an interesting document for giving like an insight into how the Xi'an like view us. There is a lot of stuff about like exploiting us in here, and thinking about what the Xi'an can get out of us, but also a lot of stuff about let's think about our own morals and it may be good just to like seek peace for peace's own sake. Okay, I think I'll sign off there then. I'm glad you got a little bit of translation out of me on the Torrall Aggregate stuff. I'll try and put that up somewhere so it's like useful for people. And I'll sign off there. Thanks for watching the stream, and hope to if there is ever another translation, I definitely will do something like this with a translation. So thanks everyone.